From BLC Studios in Mankato, Minnesota, this is the Maverick Hockey Live Podcast, presented by Dunkin. With your host, Shane Frederick.
This is the Maverick Hockey Live Podcast, presented by Dunkin. I'm Shane Frederick, I'm your host, and joining me today is Mr. Mike Hastings, head coach of the Mavericks. How you doing today, Hasty?
Good, Freddie. Good to see you. It's been a while.
It has been a while. Great to have you back. It's a good time to have you back as the Mavericks head into the postseason. But we have to talk about the excitement from Saturday. And first of all, congratulations on a conference championship, a McNaughton Cup. That's got to be exciting, first of all, just for this team in particular to win that.
Yeah, thanks. It's, you have goals at the beginning of the year, and ours is to try and get home ice. That's one of our first goals, and we're able to do that, and then to try and win a league championship. And there's been a lot of peaks and valleys with our group and our journey this year. We were just a game over 500 at Christmas, and we'd done some things that we hadn't done before. And what I mean by that is getting swept at home a couple of times in the first half, and just some growing pains. But I really like the way the guys have managed the second half, and it was a crazy weekend against a really good Michigan Tech team, and we knew, and I've talked to you multiple times, I've got a lot of respect for them because of just the way they play, and really our league, there are no easy outs. We'll find that out this weekend. I think the last two games that we played against Lake State were 1-goal games. So it's just a tough time of the season, but for the guys to figure out a way to get it done and hang a banner and be able to be together forever because of what they accomplish is pretty unique and pretty special.
According to College Hockey Inc., Minnesota State became the first program in men's Division I history to outright win 6 conference championships in a row, which you did 4 WCHA, 2 CCHA. That itself is quite of an accomplishment, and you're talking about you throw in the number of players who have factored in all of those over the last 6 years. What does that number mean to you when you're able to kind of put a run together like that?
Well, that's something that you and I will probably be at the brewery this summer and talk about. It's not something when you're in the heart of your season, which we are right now at the most important time, that you really discuss. I'm humbled by the idea of that it's gotten to that point. Had an opportunity to talk to Mark Michaelis. I got a text from Wyatt Amat, guys that have been here before and helped build that. It's nice to see Bryce Gervais had won a championship over in Europe, and he had sent a photo with his daughter and his trophy, and it's special. But those are for things when seasons are over, when guys move on, and we're going to have a few guys move on in the season. We want to continue as long as it can. So, I think that's for a later date. And, we got to stay focused on what's in front of us.
You mentioned just where you guys were at Christmas time, and every program has, you often use the term peaks and valleys, and I think over time programs are going to have those peaks and valleys, and you were so dominant in the league for so long that it was only natural, it seemed, with who you lost from last year, with starting in goal with Dryden McKay, and we don't have to go through everybody, but Nathan Smith and Julian Napravnik, and well, I guess I can mention them all. Jack McNeely and Reggie Letts, et cetera, and you mentioned Wyatt Amat. It seems natural that there was going to take some growing pains, and maybe that's hard to swallow as a coach, as a team, as a fan base, I'm sure, as you're going through that first half of the season. But what do you think turned things around, after the holidays, that you were able to string together 8 in a row, go on this run, and be, in a position to win a championship on the final weekend of the season?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. I think we had some different guys step up at different times in different positions. A guy that I think really caught fire here in the second half, and I'll start with the young guys. When you look at Fitzgerald and the impact that he has had, a young man coming off a severe serious shoulder injury. When I was talking to him about the potential of playing another year of junior hockey, and he just looked at me and said, "Coach, I'm ready. I'm ready for the challenge. I think I can come in and contribute." And it's a learning experience for me as a coach because as I'm learning as I get older, you do need to listen to your players.
Sure.
Now, I'm not going to do that blindly because I know they've told me some things or at least thought some things that I'm not going to do or I'm not going to listen to. But for the most part, it's one in saying, hey, you know what? Okay, it's going to be an uphill battle, and anything that has been put in front of him, he has just conquered. And you know, there's ebbs and flows to a freshman season, but for him to have 12 goals and to be playing at a level that he's playing right now for us as a freshman, coming in off a serious injury, I think just says a tremendous amount about him. And so he's played on a power play. He's played in our top six, our bottom six. He's played in the middle. He's played on the offside. He's played on the wall, on his strong side. He's just done a lot of different things for us. So that's one right away. I think our young defensive core has grown. Yeah. Soup, Psycho says Campbell is I think really settled in. And that's taken a while. Wheels has settled in. Andy Carroll has elevated. I think Akito Hiroshi has elevated. And so for us, when you're talking about that, there's the majority of your defensive core outside of Jake Livingstone, Tony Malinowski, Bellini, there it is. Those guys I think have matured. So our young guys have come along, couple up front, Adam Isley up front, and then the guys that we've had back at the blue line. Then I think you take and you add a goaltender where in the position we were peak and valley, and more valley than peak in the first half, and we've always talked, you and I have talked about what do you have to do to get a goaltender to, we got to get it to 90%. That's the Mason Dixon line for us Einstein coaches where, we could care less if it's four breakaways, 2-2-on-1s, we still need 90%. And Keenan Ransier settled in and gave us an opportunity when we weren't good to stay in games. And so that, and then that leadership group. I think when you see what happened on Saturday, Cade Borchardt gets the game winner. David Cillier scores a power play goal. Akito Hiroshi's got a couple of assists. Brendan Furry has a couple of assists. Those are guys. Ryan Sandelin has been as consistent as a guy over the second half as we've had. If you're able to talk about that many people in those different positions that have matured, I think that's why we've had some success here in the second half.
How much does it test a coach's patience as you know that this is what's happening, this is what can happen? You're hoping that it solidifies the way it did, but you're going through those ups and downs of the first half of the season and trying to figure out who can be consistent in goal, how quickly some of those young players can come along. Obviously had a major injury with Sam Morton, who had started the season gangbusters and unfortunately ended up getting injured early, which I'm sure was another bit of a setback as you try to develop, some consistency in your lineup. I know coaches are impatient by nature, but were you able to kind of stay patient through that and hope, were you seeing pieces of it coming together?
We really had no choice. Yeah. And again, it's part of what you go through. And you throw in, a Bennett Zamolik, who we were hoping to come in and anchor, probably a top 4 position with our defensive core. He hasn't played at all. Right. And then we lose Lucas Sauter, who just got back in the lineup for a significant amount of time. I guess we, as a coaching staff, we're trying to live and do the same thing that we're asking our players to do, which is just let's worry about today. I know it's our job to worry about the future, and that's what Todd Connaught and Paul Kirtland, I asked those guys to focus on that with some of my input. But at the end of the day, we've just tried to stay present and make sure that we don't get to control what has happened. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. And so the group bought into that. And so as a coaching staff, we had to do the same thing. I will tell you, there's some trying times, but you grow from them as a coach, just like the team has grown.
And I'm sure, one of those things, I think Cade had a great quote in the post game, and I'll paraphrase it here, but talking about previous years where said that, the teams worked hard to win those championships, but it probably looked easier than it was. This year was a little harder, and they realized how much harder it was because of that. And so to get to the end of the season and get a championship, that had to be kind of a special thing to see as a coach. And I think I would say the fans in the stands. I kind of watched from the stands, not the press box this weekend, and I just think there was something special about watching a team kind of grind its way into that position to win a championship and kind of find a way, as opposed to playing at a very high consistent level throughout and where it became expected at the end.
Well, here's the thing that you and I know, just because we're in it, and I know you're not in it as much as you used to be. I appreciate you still doing what you do, and being as connected as you are. But every year is completely different.
Right.
And so, I guess I'd look at it like a marriage. And I don't know about you, but I've had some good ones. I haven't strung, this
good
is
years, not good marriage.
Yeah, marriage is good. That's, I'm talking the years. You're right.
Maybe there's multiple. Maybe that's breaking news here.
The point I'd say is this, is that you can have your plan set. And just because you had a great year, and I'll go back and my son going off to Northeastern University and having a good, productive year. My daughter, finishing her degree at MSU and moving on into her personal life, and now being in a spot in Madison and enjoying life. My wife getting through her battle with cancer, and now she's real healthy, and we've been fortunate to be able to be in a position here in this community to become a part of it. And so that, just because that happens in the last 12 months doesn't mean what's going to happen in the next 12.
Right.
And that's the thing with coaching. You have people come in, you have people leave. And the one thing that I found here is that the expectation level hasn't changed.
Right.
Right. There's an expectation level of success on the rink, off the rink, in the community, in the classroom, as the administration says we have to continue. And I think those are good. They're healthy, but they're also realistic. Yeah. They're not guaranteed. You've got to go and earn them. And I thought our guys did a really good job really surviving in the first half, learning from those mistakes, us as a staff, maybe even some of our fans at seeing, what we went through. And then what you're saying is appreciating what happened at the end. And I can tell you this, it's we have to turn the page in a hurry, because the next one's up, and if it doesn't get done this weekend, I know that means, yes, this last weekend happened, and it can't be taken away, which I think is unique about a championship. And some of the things that have happened in that building are pretty crazy. But it's now we've got to turn the page and start writing a new chapter.
Well, before we completely turn the page, let's talk about this past weekend. Obviously, Michigan Tech has had a great season, a bit unexpected. I think a lot of people, I can't remember exactly what they were in the preseason, but you go in with a goaltender like Blake Pietila, who's set, I think, as I wrote in my blog the other day, kind of stepped out of Dryden McKay's shadow over the last few years to really show. And you've known that he's been an outstanding goaltender for a while. He shuts you guys out on Friday night. You guys are a point down going into the final game of the season, and then you get off to that pretty good start in general. Finally get one by them, get another one by them. They score on a penalty shot, and then we get to, let's just fast forward to the last 2 minutes of the game. It was crazy. And I've seen a lot of crazy games in that building over 20 plus years. You've seen a lot of crazy games in that building over the last 11 years. I don't know. I don't want to. You don't have to say where that ranks, but it's got to be up there with just the craziness of a game, especially with so much on the line.
Yeah, and it literally, we've talked since, but that you can't explain it. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that walked out of there and were there and were like, "Okay, what'd you say just happened?" Because so fast.
Yeah.
The change in momentum. And, the goal gets waved off and you're like, okay, now we're in business. Let's run this out. Let's find a way to get it done. We're on, and Pav goes in, and I don't think, maybe Tech, but I don't think anybody would really argue on if it was a penalty on, when Pav went to the net. Mm-hmm. And then we go on the power play and, we turn it over. They come down and Kukin, boy, you want to talk about a ball player.
Yeah.
Turns the defenseman, goes in, buries it, and they're not going to go away. And that's just tech. They're not going to go away. Told you that before, and we've talked about it. We've both experienced it, and they didn't. And the one thing we were talking about on the bench, and I think our guys were a little bit rattled, but as the second unit was going out, we just say, hey, guys, we're still on a power play.
Yeah.
And that's where I thought our leadership really was shown. We get a puck in the neutral zone, and Brendan Furry grabs it, takes it wide, doesn't get rid of it, holds on to it, possesses it, finds a way to get it to Andy Carroll, who I think is playing some of the best hockey that he's played since he's pulled the sweater over his shoulders here. And he finds Borchardt to finish. And then it seemed like those 30-some seconds were a lifetime, from that point on.
Even when there was 3 seconds left on the last faceoff.
Absolutely. And so just a unique night, special, because I think the support that we've had in our community and the people that have come out and supported us throughout this entire season, even through some of the struggles at home, that building has become a place that on average is if it's not sold out, it's real close.
Yeah.
And it's become, an event. And the support that we've had there for them to be able to come in. And I know they've been disappointed walking out of that building too often this year, but it was nice to send them home in a positive mindset.
Yeah. And that was just an unbelievable, experience, just watching that whole thing and just the range of emotions between the two benches and from the goal that was scored to the wave off to the time that in between during the challenge. I think that was certainly a moment. Fans are looking at the big screen, before it happens. I'm not sure they expected it. It was kind of one of those things for me where I don't think I saw the interference, from where I was sitting, and so I was surprised to. That there was kind of a break, and then all of a sudden, I think everybody at the same time realized what they saw. Well, almost everybody on the ice, but we don't have to.
I think that the initial contact was we pushed their guy into our goaltender, and then he re-engaged with the goaltender, and it is what it is. I know consistency is important. What we've asked for in the league, and that's consistently been called goaltender interference in our league all year. So.
Well, you guys haven't always come out on the best side of goal reviews. So, I mean, I don't know what
if you thought I thought for sure that was going our way, you're nuts. Because you and I have got a long history of. I've stopped thinking when you challenge that it's going to come back. I've always tried to get our guys to be prepared. The guys be prepared that this isn't going to go our direction.
Yeah, there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee that you're seeing the same thing that someone else is seeing. And we could probably go through and find what your actual record is on those reviews. But
it's not very good.
It's not.
it's not very good.
And then you talk about Andre Pavel, who has seemed to have not great puck luck when it comes to scoring goals, but certainly an impactful player in terms of forcing action, making teams defend, things that he does just to create some of the chances that he creates, including on that play to draw that penalty. I'm kind of wishing for him to score a goal just because it seems like he's so close with whether there's shorthanded breakaways or just other plays. He had he in the 3-on-3 overtime at Bemidji, he kind of just trips over the blue line. It's just like, oh man, he's doing everything else right?
Yeah, he's an effort, energy, emotional leader.
Yeah,
for us, and I think if we had a poll, he'd probably be one of the fan favorites. And how do you not love a guy that works that hard? Will do whatever he needs to do, block a shot, finish a check, all the things that coaches really respect. And he plays with such emotion, and in fact, a little too much emotion there at the end.
It was pretty great. From a fan standpoint, it was pretty great.
Yeah, well, and again, at that time, you look at it, and I think both sides were so amped up.
Yeah.
And it just, you know what, in today's day and age, when you get to see a guy that puts all the work that he does into his daily game, into his life, he's self-sufficient. Anything he's gotten, he has worked for. I'm very happy that he has been wearing our jersey for the past 3 years.
And I'll just mention that after drawing that penalty and then getting knocked down again, he kind of went to the student section and threw his arms in the air and kind of got everybody amped up. And it was a great moment, of course, until a few seconds later when you guys give up a short-handed goal. It kind of deflated things a bit, but
the air went out of the room. There's no doubt.
But quickly came back in on the goal. And as you mentioned, you kind of described the goal, obviously the game winner, but it's always great on a senior night, even though you'll be playing home games going forward, to see, and in that case, all three players who scored a point on that goal, Brendan Furry and Andy Carroll, and then Cade Borchert to finish it, was that kind of made for a special night, I'm sure. Yeah,
they've done a lot of heavy lifting for our program, and one thing when we talk to our freshmen when they come in, we ask them, their responsibility is to hopefully leave our program better than when they got here. And those three guys have done that. Culture-wise, hockey-wise, community-wise, they're going to have their degrees plus. They live life the right way. And so those are people that you'd like to, and that's what it was at the end of that. I've had a couple of questions of what do you feel? You know what? I was really happy for those guys because they've taken some bullets this year. Mm-hmm. That leadership group, because of the expectations that we put on them, because of the expectations that are on them themselves and their community and everybody around. They're the ones that have to take the questions. Why aren't you this? Why aren't you that? And they've been front and center. And so I'm really happy that they were able to finish off the regular season the way they did.
Now the playoffs begin. You guys are going to host Lake Superior State. Kind of as the conference has gone this year, I don't know if you could go through the entire roster of 8 teams and say, I want to play this team in the playoffs.
No, thanks. There isn't. And then now you and I have been at different times, different years. Yeah, I want to play that team only because I think we match up well.
Sure.
Look at the games that we had with Lake State. Okay, who do you want? Ferris. Well, they swept us at home.
Right.
You want Bemidji? Well, they swept us at home. Mm-hmm. Go up and down.
St. Thomas getting points every single weekend.
There is not an easy out, and you're not supposed to. There's not supposed to be one. So that's where you see it. Like our league is really compressed, and I want to give the CCHA credit from the standpoint of at looking at where we wanted to go to, and that's what all leagues are about. Now we want to continue to push the envelope up top, but that can be anybody in the deck right now. Right. You see the facility going into St. Thomas, what's already being built and almost done down at Augustana. Mm-hmm. It's just there's a lot of really good things going on right now, and I think the playoffs are one of them because I'd be shocked if somebody isn't upset.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure it's not us, if at all possible, right? And so, but the idea, but I don't think that'd shock anybody in our league. From top to bottom, so everybody's going to have to go out and earn it,
right? And not to. You guys don't want to look ahead, but fans will look ahead. And do you get Tech back? Can you go on your own run and then get Tech back here for what could be a great rematch, or Bemidji State for what could be a great rematch of what happened a year ago, which was the other on the list of crazy endings of important games in Mankato. But looking at Lake State and looking at your team this weekend, what's your week been like? I know it's only Tuesday as we record this, but you getting everybody settled down and kind of looking forward and kind of putting that excitement in the rear view for a little bit.
Yeah, we took Monday and made sure to get our daily in and get a workout in the morning, and then went for a little bit of a skate, and Tuesday was a little bit longer. But yeah, the guys have done a good job. Yeah, I think you've got to give them some time, but not too much. So we, Todd and Paul, and Todd does such a great job on turning the page for us and doing work previous to who we were going to play. So we were working on a few different teams, depending on what was going to happen on the weekend. And yeah, I mean, we're going to have to get after it right away because the last time we played these guys, we only played them twice. So we don't have as big a book of business on them as we would have if we would have played them 4 times. But they're coming in here. I think Bedoin's one of the better players in the entire conference. I got a tremendous amount of respect for him. And if you look just a year ago, their coach, that program, they understand what it is to come in this building and be successful because they have been. And so, for us, we've got our work cut out for us and stay focused on our dailies until Friday gets here.
With the way the postseason works out and you look at the pairwise and things like that, and that ends up being kind of really important too as you go forward, because you are kind of a bubble team. Every time I think I have the pairwise figured out, I I don't have it figured out. I know you guys are not in a vacuum. There's other games that are happening around the country, and they affect where you're at. And certainly, I think it was interesting. A loss to St. Thomas, a loss to Bemidji. It didn't really hurt you. It probably made things a little bit more fragile, I'm guessing. And then you play a team that's ranked higher than you in the pairwise, and split and get a championship, and you move down a bit. So, I mean, I know that kind of probably weighs on your guys' minds as well. As I always said to every fan about the pairwise all the time, is the only guarantee with the pairwise is just keep winning.
Yeah, you said it right in a nutshell at the end. This goes back to the message that we've had since Christmas. Let's control what we get to control. Yeah. And I know that's boring radio, it's boring TV, it's print, whatever you want to talk about, but it's the truth. If, right now, all we can do is take what's in front of us and deal with it as best we can. And let's say it is a loss. Okay, what are you going to do? Let's say it's a win. You better re-tee it and you get after the next one. And the guys have been doing that for a while. So I'm hoping the experience that we've had here over the second half, at whether it's been a peak or a valley, and we've had more peaks in the second half than we did in the first half, they were good at turning the page and just moving on to what's next. And what's next for us is we've still got a few practices here that we've got to crush and then get prepared for a team that's going to try and end our season, because I think it's very difficult to try and end somebody else's season. Right. That's just what it is at this time, and I think that's what makes it special. Yeah, and it ends up being, as from an observer's standpoint, it makes it that much more fun. And I think as much as people like to see, they want you to win, they want things to be a certain way, but I think it's also why we watch sports, because we want to see how you get there, right? So I like the drama. I like the close standings. I like the close games because it's exciting. It's why we like sports. But and you're going to possibly see something you've never seen before. But I'm sure sometimes you'd probably like to go for a little comfortable stretch of games if you can too. Those don't happen anymore. They just don't. And I think that's what's phenomenal about college hockey right now. You see Long Island University and you're seeing some of the different programs. You're seeing Fairbanks doing what Fairbanks is doing right now, and largely up there. I mean, incredibly impressive. Hats off to them. Again, we're different than football. We're different than basketball. The top to bottom margin is not what it is in those sports, and so for us, the great equalizer, goaltender, and you can go out and have possession of a puck for 85 to 90% of the game and lose a hockey game. Oh, there's hockey. That's the beauty of it. And you don't know what's going to happen, just like we didn't know what was going to happen on Saturday and a year ago against Bemidji. And so just turn the page, stay focused on what you're doing in that day, and take what comes at you and make sure you manage it as best you can. Well, we'll leave it at that. Best of luck to the Mavericks, to you and your team this weekend at the Mayo Clinic Health System Event Center in downtown Mankato as the Mavericks take on Lake Superior State in the best of 3 first round of the CCHA playoffs. Should be a lot of fun. Thanks for joining today, Hasty. Appreciate it. Good to see you, Freddie, and hopefully we'll see you down there this weekend. Sounds good. All right. This has been the Maverick Hockey Live podcast. That's Mike Hastings. I'm Shane Frederick. We'll talk to you next time.